All right, hello and welcome back to another episode of Just a Girl from Cleveland. This is episode 156. Apologies I wasn't able to record last week. I actually was in work events, work dinners the entire week. As you well know, if you listen to this, I do have a full-time job outside of this, and sometimes there are just not enough hours in the day and everything can't work the way I would like it to. So wasn't able to record last week, which is unfortunate because that would have been the only Browns win so far I would have gotten to record after and maybe come on here with a little positivity. But once again, the Cleveland Browns have decided to disappoint me and lose to the New York Giants. So there's not going to be, a ton of positivity on this podcast this week. So sorry you got to miss Positive Abby for a moment last week. Yeah, like I said, not enough hours in the day, too many things to get done, trying to do it all, but we're here to talk football anyways. Look, we're just going to kind of get right into the Browns game because that is the meat of what needs to be discussed today. The Browns are now 1-2. It's interesting when you look at the landscape of the AFC at this point in time. Because a lot of teams are struggling. So I don't want for a moment to make it seem like this is just a Browns problem. Like quarterbacks across the league are struggling. Injuries are plaguing teams everywhere. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 0-3. The Cincinnati Bengals are 0-3. Lots of teams that have invested in their quarterbacks in some way, shape, or form are also struggling. So, it's not just a Browns problem, but it certainly feels much worse when it is happening to your team. And it's very hard to avoid because of that. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of issues going on across the league. No team is or few teams, I would say, are really happy at this point in time, except for maybe the Buffalo Bills after the way they played last night. Most teams are not feeling so great at this point in time. I would say maybe the Steelers too, sitting there at 3-0, top of the AFC North. They're feeling pretty up there. I was looking on Twitter yesterday and just noticing Chiefs fans reacting to the performances of the Kansas City Chiefs thus far this season. Even though the Chiefs are 3-0, I'm like, wow, what a luxury problem to have, to be complaining about your team when they're 3-0. I could only dream of a world where my team is repeatedly winning Super Bowls, contending every single year, and I'm still upset in week 3. I would love to be in that position more than anything, but nonetheless, I have to complain at 1-2 instead. But yeah, like Chiefs fans are even upset, obviously, with the way their offense has been running in general this season. Travis Kelce kind of looks to be obviously on the decline, which is not shocking. He's a 34-year-old tight end. I think people their brains have been broken by some of the best athletes alive and how long that they play in their sport at the very top of their game. The Tom Brady's, the LeBron Jameses, they make people think that everyone should be able to play forever when they are not the norm. The norm is to retire and be done with your career much earlier or to at least be declining for the last couple of years of your career. Most people aren't, going out as high as a Tom Brady went out, or as well as LeBron James is still playing at his age. Like, that is not the norm. So I need people to remember that when discussing Travis Kelce. Like, it's incredible that he has played the way he has at 34 and has, continued to really contribute to his team at such a high level. So it's no Taylor Swift effect here of having him start playing worse this year, which is also just a crazy and disrespectful thing to say anyways, that somehow him being in a relationship and interested in other things is taking away from the sport that he's worked so hard to play for so many years and has committed so much time to. I just think that's such a silly statement. He also won a Super Bowl last year while he was dating her, so another just crazy thought to have. But yeah, Chiefs fans are not happy with that offense right now. So it is it's when you take a step back as a Browns fan or if you're a fan of any team, you will see that there are issues across the league and lots of unhappy people. And maybe that'll give you some peace as you sit there and think about how your team is falling apart, that you're not alone, that we are all with you. AFC, NFC, we're all there. Lots of teams are right there with you. Okay, so yes, getting into the Browns game. Look, there's a number of issues that I want to talk through and go over on what is the problem with this team right now, because it is not just one thing. There are lots of different problems that are affecting the Browns at this point in time. And we'll just get into all of them. I think starting with the defense, my number one, not my number one concern, but one of my concerns with this defense going into this season was, are they going to evolve from what they did last year? Jim Schwartz has been around in this league for a very long time. He is known for a certain style of defense. That style of defense is a heavy blitz. It is an aggressive pass rush that is getting after the quarterback and making things really hard for him, so that you're kind of overwhelming teams in that way, not allowing that quarterback much time to get the ball out. And look, the Browns have had a talented secondary over last year and this year where you feel like you can run an aggressive blitz like that because you trust your corners to be able to have decent enough coverage, that you're kind of covered on both ends in terms of out in the secondary and then in terms of the pass rush. I think the issue is when you only have one way of being that you're really good at, teams are going to start figuring you out. They had an entire season last year to watch how the Browns defense performed, what their scheme was, what they were bringing forward each week. And they saw kind of the same thing consistently week after week and said, okay, they're probably going to do that again. And teams are so far, other than Jacksonville, who is kind of inept as an organization, have been pretty prepared for what the Browns defense is bringing forward. The Giants were really effective in getting the ball out quickly. They used quite a few screens, couple jet sweeps in there, just really focusing on the short game and getting the ball out quickly in order to just move the ball down the field. And they did that really effectively, especially in the first half of the game. It felt like it was no issue for them to get the ball down the field. And I do think the defense adjusted a little in the second half, but I think we might need to start having questions about, like, is that too little too late? If you're giving up a couple touchdowns to a not good or a not good offense in this league in the first half of the game, should you be making those adjustments earlier, or just rethinking, the amount of snaps that you are playing with certain schemes, and maybe start adjusting those things so that teams don't find you to be so predictable, that you're giving them different looks. And it just feels like Jim Schwartz and the Browns defense are not willing to do that. And it does make me really concerned for what the rest of this season is going to look like if they do continue to kind of come forward with the same game plan every single time. Look, you're still going to have some games where it works, where Myles Garrett is just so dominant, completely overwhelms the opposing quarterback and they don't know what to do. And you're going to have other games like this where the Giants were able to kind of slice and dice down the field and get things done. So it was unfortunate to see, but I'm interested to see how the Browns defense is going to move forward, because kind of opposite to the offense, I do have trust in the talent that is on this Browns defense. I think they have really incredible players, and I believe in their ability to fix things if they're given the opportunity to do so. So we will see where it goes from here. Other side of the ball, look, the offensive line is bad, and it's not all their fault because injuries have continued to plague them. Jed is hurt again. He came in hurt again. Still no Jack. Dewan looks bigger and slower than he looked last season, which is one of the concerns about him coming into this league, was his size and how that was going to affect him. Teller's going to be out for a little while. I think they, I don't know if they actually put him on the IR or if they've said they're going to put him on the IR, but it's either way, he's going to be missing some significant time. Bitonio has lost a step clearly just across the offensive line. It's not pretty. So that is compared to the defense where I feel really concerned because I don't know if we have the players there to get it done. And that makes me really nervous. Now, the Browns aren't the only team that is struggling with their offensive line. There are offensive lines across the league with massive holes, injuries, players who you're like, should this be a starting player in the NFL? Probably not. And they are, because it is just hard in this league to find good offensive linemen. That is the name of the game. So I don't want to, totally excuse the Browns in this realm, but I do want to say, like, this is a league-wide issue that many other quarterbacks are dealing with poor offensive lines, and just injuries and poor play from those players in general. The main point I've been trying to make online, which really frustrates a lot of people who, this is a common theme, and I'm sure it's not just a Browns fan thing, but it's been a common theme for people who are fans of the Cleveland Browns. It happened with Baker. It is happening again with Deshaun Watson, where people want to find every single excuse in the book for why a player is doing what they are doing, rather than putting any sort of blame on them for how they are affecting the game and what they could do differently. It was an issue we saw with Baker in his last season. It is an issue we are seeing year after year now with Deshaun Watson, where there are a lot of people who want to continue to make excuses for that quarterback. And the fact of the matter is, he is not the quarterback he used to be. He was brought into this organization because he was going to be able to take this team to the next level. They paid him a large amount of money because they knew they were going to be able to pay other players less money, knowing that that quarterback was going to elevate his team to another dimension, another level, and he has not for 1 second been that type of quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. So you can say anything else about any other player on this offense, the drops from the wide receivers, the poor play from the offensive line, the fact that we don't have Nick Chubb, that David Njoku is hurt. You can say all of those things, but the quarterback for not a single moment has overcome a single issue and made his team better. He is a detriment to his team more often than he is even keeping this team at a baseline. And that is not what he was brought in to do. And I feel like the people who are such massive fans of him have continued to move the goalposts on what they deem acceptable for, criticism of Deshaun Watson, or what we are supposed to be able to expect from Deshaun Watson. The first season, it was like, okay, he's going to have some rust. He was suspended for a while. When he comes back in and plays some games, he's going to be rusty. So we need to excuse that and give him some time. Okay, fine. I was on board with that. Makes sense. Next year, very up and down. Things did not look good most of the time. He had a good half here and there of a football game, but nothing of what we were expecting to see of the Deshaun Watson that was in Houston. That did not really show up at all last season. Then obviously he got injured. This year it was like, okay, you can't expect much from him because he's coming back from injury and getting used to things again. So we're in year 3 now of this player, and we're not supposed to expect anything from him. And it's all of these other factors that are causing his play, and we're actually just supposed to blame every single other person for what is going wrong. Even though the original intent of bringing this player in was because he was supposed to elevate this team, and everyone knew that was the reason. So the moving of the goalposts is really frustrating on what people are telling me to expect of this quarterback today versus what people were telling me 3 years ago when the Browns made the move to get this quarterback. And for me, that's so unacceptable because it was already so frustrating for them to make this move in the first place, given the off the field issues of the quarterback and how hard it was going to be to root for a guy like that and cheer for my team when I want to, when a person like that was going to be the quarterback on my team. It was hard enough for that, but for him to be playing the way that he has played, I am not accepting a single excuse at this point in time. I will always acknowledge the other issues on the team, like I did for 10 minutes before I started to talk about the quarterback here. But you are not going to catch me for one moment giving that man a pass for not showing up here in Cleveland for a moment for 3 years. We are in year 3 of this deal now, and we are just not seeing what we need to see from him, and that's really frustrating. Okay, so that's all I want to say about the quarterback, but just had to make that really clear. I guess, the one other factor I want to talk about with the Browns this game is the play calling. It definitely has been subpar. It was decent for moments in the Jacksonville game. They had that first drive, those scripted drives that Kevin Stefanski is always so good at. And then, there were some struggles from there. But I think my biggest issue that I'm seeing is that I don't know if this coach and this quarterback are a match for each other in the styles that they are putting forward, if this is a mesh between the two. And it is getting to a point, obviously still a lot of season left, so I don't want to say anything definitively, but it is getting to a point where it feels like one of them might have to go because they are not aligned whatsoever. Obviously, I personally more comfortable with Kevin moving forward. I know might be a shock to everyone listening to this, but I am more comfortable with Kevin Stefanski as the coach of this team than I am with Deshaun Watson as the quarterback of this team. But I just, I know they just extended Kevin, and that doesn't always mean everything. People can fire coaches at any point in time, but I just trust that Kevin has been able to make magical seasons with a variety of quarterback talent across the board. And I trust that more than I trust that Deshaun will ever get back to the quarterback that he was at Houston or even close to it. So I'd be more comfortable with the coach moving forward if they do make the decision to go with one rather than the other. Okay, so that's all I have to say about the Browns game. We got the Raiders this week. A very winnable game, but I don't really know what to expect from this team at this point in time. It would be funny if, compared to last year where the Browns defense was really good at home and really bad on the road, where they just do the opposite thing, where they were pretty good in Jacksonville on the road, have been bad both games at home. If maybe this week in Vegas, they're just really good on the road. I don't know. Not sure what to expect in Vegas. I think the Browns fans are going to show up and show out for, a fun road game, and they'll be loud and excited. So real potential to win the game, but it's really hard to predict what version of this team we're going to see out on the field. I don't know what to expect. Okay, to touch on just another game that I wanted to talk about from this weekend was one of the Monday Night Football games. It was Bengals Commanders. So many interesting things to come out of this game that I just felt like I wanted to briefly talk about it. One, I haven't really sat down in previous games and watched the Commanders. I know that this is by and far Jayden Daniels' best game, that one of the Commanders games they won by solely kicking like 1 million field goals with old Browns kicker Austin Seibert, so shout out to him. But I really I know that like I have not consumed full amount of Commanders tape to make definitive statements about Jayden Daniels, but what I watched last night from him had me so excited about him as a young quarterback in this league, and had me really excited for Commanders fans. I think that organization, as a fan of a team that has been through a lot because of the decisions of my organization, I really feel for Commanders fans. I think they have been through the ringer for many years. It's been tough for them, and I'm excited for them that they potentially could have found a guy and could be in a good place. I'm happy for Terry McLaurin, Buckeye, finding potentially a quarterback for the first time really in his career. He has been so patient, such a true professional, such a loyal guy to his team. I have nothing but respect for him as a player. I think he is so talented, so underrated, and will be so happy for him if this truly is, a good quarterback fit for this team. But I think what impressed me most with Jayden Daniels was really his calmness. He was just calm, cool, and collected. He was anticipating throws, which I think is something you don't see from rookies often. I mean, this was one of my criticisms of Deshaun Watson in, these last couple of games, is he has not anticipated throws whatsoever. He's not seeing where his receivers will be going in the future. He is throwing to targets where they already are. And that was something really cool to see from Jayden Daniels this past game, where one of those really impressive touchdown throws, he anticipated that throw perfectly and threw such a dime. And it was something you don't see always from rookies. And I think in a primetime atmosphere, that's also really nerve-wracking. So I really could not be happier for him. And I hope to see it continue, because we need more good quarterback talent in this league. We are seeing quarterbacks across the league struggle, lots of injuries. I always want more quarterback talent in this league. It makes watching football so much more fun when the quarterbacks are really great. So I am hoping that that is what we are going to get moving forward from him. On the flip side, the Bengals. Bengals might be bad. Bengals, they're 0-3 now. There's been one team since the year 2000 that has made the playoffs, starting the season 0-3. There's been 6 since 1979, I believe. So it's, it's not looking pretty for them to make the playoffs. But look, this is a continued conversation with them about their defense. They struggled last year. They are looking really rough again this year. And I think it's just the continued conversation about they really have not supported Joe Burrow there. They, are not really paying other people outside of Joe Burrow once they got that deal done. Look, they're one of the poorer teams in the NFL, if you can say that for people who have millions and millions of dollars, but they just don't pay their guys. So it's going to be interesting to see where the Bengals go in the future, when they really just have Joe Burrow. And, obviously he connected with Jamar Chase a couple times throughout the game. They still have that, but, the Bengals aren't moving forward with their receivers in a way that they should. And it's probably not instilling confidence across the organization. So, I don't think that the Bengals are going to be able to make the playoffs after this. It's possible with how kind of crazy things are in the AFC right now and how down some teams are. I think it still could happen, but I don't know. I don't have any trust in what we've seen from that defense for them to be able to get it done. Okay, so the last thing, I want to do my picks. So obviously, since I didn't record last week, I didn't get to talk about my record from week 2. I went 8-7 in week 2, so not as good. I also realized I forgot to pick the Monday night game, Eagles-Falcons, so that's why it's 8-7, and I'm missing a game there. But it's fine because I didn't do that good with my picks anyways. I should be picking more correctly than that. But since I didn't record last week, I obviously didn't make future picks. So no record to report for week 3, but we are going to make picks for week 4, starting with Cowboys-Giants. Interesting matchup, divisional matchup for the two of them. Look, the Cowboys have struggled, but I think honestly the only reason the Giants looked good was because they were playing the Browns. So I'm going with the Cowboys still, even with their struggles. We got Saints-Falcons. I'm taking the Falcons. I kind of have enjoyed what I've been seeing from Kirk Cousins, at least most recently there. So look, two teams that have had up and down moments, but I'm taking the Falcons. Bengals-Panthers, controversial. I'm taking the Panthers. They have Andy Dalton, who just put on a show for those fans there after really struggling with Bryce Young. So I think they could honestly do it. I'm not like crazy confident in this fact, because I do still think there's talent on that Bengals team, but it would be really funny for me as a Browns fan if the Bengals were able to lose to the Panthers. Rams-Bears, I'm taking the Rams. Vikings-Packers, I'm taking the Vikings. The Vikings are on quite a run here. It's been pretty interesting to watch. I think they have a really top-notch organization there, top-notch head coach, and things are going well for them. Jags-Texans, I think the Jags might just be bad, so we're going Texans. Steelers-Colts, I'm taking the Steelers. Unfortunately, they will probably continue their run, which is paining me. Broncos-Jets, taking the Jets. Eagles-Buccaneers, I have the Eagles. Commanders-Cardinals, taking the Cardinals. Patriots-49ers, I'm taking the Niners. Chiefs, Chargers, I have the Chiefs. Browns, Raiders, please don't make me regret this. I'm taking the Cleveland Browns. Bills, Ravens, I have the Bills. Titans, Dolphins, I'm taking the Dolphins. And lastly, Seahawks, Lions, I am taking the Lions. So a lot of really interesting matchups this week. I think if I would have looked at this week of matchups, this slate of NFL games in the preseason, I'd be like, there's not too much that's interesting to me here. Like, I don't know if I would have thought Vikings-Packers would have been an interesting game to me because I thought the Vikings were going to not be a good football team. Now that's one of the games I'm like really looking forward to see what the result is and how those two teams play. So it's funny how you think you know everything. A couple weeks in, you realize you know nothing and that everything changes so quickly as soon as games start being played. But that is why we watch the games. That's why it's so much fun. Okay, that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for listening. Let's hope the Browns can get themselves back to 500 next week. I believe Ohio State plays Michigan State this coming week. I know I did talk about Ohio State this week, but it's, there's not much to say when they're just battering down these not talented teams, but there might be more to say this coming week. So we'll see if I have any interesting thoughts. If you could leave a review or rating on Spotify or Apple, I'd really appreciate that. Subscribe to the YouTube, comment on the YouTube, all of those good things. I'd very much appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for listening. As always, go Browns.